just like an angel. Your skin looks proud. You float like a feather in a beautiful world.
Hey, how's it going, universe? Welcome to another episode of Zoobox Goes to the Movies. Oh my god, it's a Christmas miracle. Big Paw 3 weeks in a row. This is my Christmas present.
3.
That's like a record. That's a record, dude.
It sure is, man. It sure is. Who said 2020 was that bad?
Exactly. We're ending 2020 with the greatest gift of all. I mean, come on.
Yeah, 3 weeks in a row. Let's get it.
So tonight we're going to be doing two movies. Tonight we're going to be doing 1993's The Nightmare Before Christmas, directed by Henry Selick, written by Tim Burton, stars Danny Elfman, Chris Sarandon, Catherine O'Hara, and all these other Tim Burton fruits. And then we're going to get into Fatman, the recently released Fatman, which I have done my own review of, but I was really wanted to talk to somebody about it, and I wanted to talk to Paul about it because I thought Paul would enjoy it. So we're going to talk about that. That came out just a few weeks ago, but we're going to start with The Nightmare Before Christmas because let's get through this. This is like the work before the meat, before the meal. So I actually did not see Nightmare Before Christmas until I was like a teenager. My parents would not allow us to watch it for some reason. Like it was just like, oh, it's evil.
Yeah.
Which was weird. That's just the weirdest shit in my house, right? Because we could watch all manner of like rated R movies, all this kind of shit like that. But when it came to things like children's films that were like slightly skewed to like a darker sensibility, or just looked overtly evil, I guess. I don't know. Like the lead character is a skeleton.
Well, the term back then was satanic, right? In our community that we grew up in, right? So satanic. See, it's like, the holiest day of the year, the birth of our Savior, and then you have all this skeleton and Halloween buffoonery, synonymous with Christmas. So it did not sit well with a lot of people. I think outside of our community where I grew up, though, I don't think it was pretty well received in the early 90s when it came out. I mean, it did come with a lot of controversy.
Yeah, I mean, it did, just I think because of the tone of it. It was probably one of the first big things that like broke through to the mainstream that felt like specifically designed for edgy teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like it was like the goth era. Tim Burton kind of like birthed that, for the modern era. And I think The Nightmare Before Christmas, as we know, when we were growing up, I mean, this shit was fucking everywhere. Like like Spencer's Gifts and all those kind of places like that. Just tons of The Nightmare Before Christmas paraphernalia. I felt like I had seen the movie before I had seen it, just because of osmosis, like cultural osmosis. Because I probably didn't actually see this movie until the early 2000s.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say so. I think we watched it together the first time, actually.
We probably did. I probably bought it. Yeah.
My household, it was the same deal. It was the same deal. I was only to watch that. Yeah. No random fact, but the first rated R movie I ever saw was with my good buddy Sean. And that movie starred Wesley Snipes in the role of Blade.
Was it really Blade? Wow.
Blade was a rated R film that I watched.
Because I was going to say, I thought you were going to say Fallen. Because it was around the time we met that Fallen came out, and I had the cassette tape, and I brought it to your house, and your dad grilled me. Like in a good-natured way. But he's like, why are you bringing this to my house?
Rules, man. Rules.
I think...
What do you feel in this conversation with?
Oh my god! Well, because I was on the road, I just got home a couple hours ago. All I had around was the old black box. Still making my way through the black box. I couldn't get to the store. I was like, by the time I got home, like, because I had to like go pick up Foster from my mom's. Like, I had to have Dan drop me off, pick up our car, go get Foster, wait at my mom's for a little bit, then go pick up Sarah from work, and then come home. And I was like, just missed it. That's what sucks about the South, dude. 7 o'clock. 7 p.m. Closed.
Yeah, and it's always you never want to take your kid in the liquor store, It's not like it's adult film store or nothing, but like you never want to take your kid inside it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because everything in there is something that, well, you're speaking to your degenerate side. Like, well, no, this is all stuff for dad to drink, dad and mom. These are dad and mom drinks. These aren't little baby drinks. Why can only you drink it? Well, because of you. You know what I mean? Like, I never take the kids into the liquor store. It's just always like, I don't know. It's like you got to do it by yourself. So I completely understand not meeting the 7 o'clock.
Yeah, I can't do it. Like, there's been a couple times where I teetered. Oh, actually, no, I take it back. But it's not a real liquor store. It was like Costco. So I did that one time. But it was like it's like separate from Costco, so it technically like is a liquor store. But I just feel like the other liquor stores I go to, like the one by my house is too like liquor store. It's like
right.
too. I would feel so inappropriate. I would feel so almost like gross. And then you just think about like, oh man, what are these people going to think of me? I got like holding a 3-year-old as they peruse the bourbon.
Right.
So you feel all those weird, those social pressures, those eyes. Ones that I agree with, actually, because I don't think you should bring kids into a liquor store. Who the fuck wants to be in a liquor store and have like a little kid running around? I wouldn't want that.
No. Liquor stores, pawn stores, yeah, I mean, you name it. But let me tell you, good buddy, I got some more Mormon juice, but I broke away. Now I got the High Wild West American Prairie Bourbon. Get a good look at that. So, you, being a man of the being a man of the Jim Beam, would really like this. It's definitely a bourbon. You definitely, right off the bat, you definitely get that feel from it. The corn and the mash bill is like really strong in it, but it's not too bad. So, but like with like a lot of like corn in the mash bill, I feel it tends to be like a little sweeter, kind of like your Jim Beam. It tends to be like a little on the sweet side.
Yeah.
But nice and blonde. It's not, nothing is overpowering. It does smell like a little perfumey, but that's only like I think the initial aroma, and just like anything, after you get through the first glass, things you really get into it a little bit more. But you should definitely check this out.
Yeah, I want to check out all the High West stuff. I want to check out all the High West stuff. Like it's just I think I've had like three different variations of High West, and I liked them all. So yeah. I wanted to check that out because that's on my. I've caught my eye because I like bourbon, and then I want to try the Rendezvous Rye, which is like a little bit more top shelf for them. That's like I think it's like $65 a bottle.
Yeah, it's from there. Yeah.
So maybe like I don't know, maybe for Christmas or something, treat myself.
Yeah, man, something.
Treat myself to some Rendezvous Rye.
I mean, take too much of a hard left for the, the general stuff. But I just wanted to know what are you drinking?
Oh, it's a sad state of affairs. I will say this though. I can make fun, I can laugh, I can do whatever. As a standard, like stand-in for like a Jim Beam or something, it's fine. Like the box is the thing that like will get you. Be like, fucking like box wine. That's what you think of. But black box is like a higher end label for for box wine. That's how they started, and then they started getting to spirits, and it's normally like $30 for one of them, but for whatever reason, the liquor store that's near my house is like dumping them because I just don't think because it's just like a stigma. It's like in a box. Like who the fuck wants to buy that?
Right.
And so they're like dumping them for like $12. So I bought like 3 of them. I was like, fuck it. Whatever. I'll have it around for when I can't get to the liquor store or whatever. And I do all these live streams and stuff now. So it's just like, I like to have a little sauce. I can't always, I'm not a man of means. I can't always be affording the High West every single time. I drink too much these days to really be able to afford that.
Yeah. That's the problem. Transition from beer to, the finer things like whiskeys. And, it gets pricey, man.
It does. It adds up. It really does. And then you start building a tolerance, and then you're like, fuck. It's like drugs.
I know. Got to parse it out through the week, man. It's tough. I still haven't cracked that code. So Nightmare Before Christmas.
Wow. What a soundtrack, huh, everybody? What a soundtrack. We all know the songs. We love the songs. If there's one thing I really do actually sincerely like about this movie is the score. It's awesome.
Well, you know what's crazy? So, we talked about how we weren't able to watch it for a while. We felt because of cultural osmosis, like we've seen it before, we actually saw it. And it's just one of those things where like you feel like you know it, but then you don't until you revisit this. And that's one of the fun thing with you invite me to come on and talk about movies is just kind of looking at things a different way, paying more attention to like everything. And this go around, I just realized I'm like, oh shit, like Danny Elfman does all the singing, and then the actor, oh god, is from like The Princess Bride. He's the singer, Six Finger. I was like, this whole time I always thought it was like the same like voice actor. So that was
yeah. Chris Sarandon does the speaking voice of Jack Skellington, and Danny Elfman does the singing voice. And the reason why they cast Chris Sarandon is because his vocal tenor matches Danny Elfman's natural speaking voice. So they matched up the vocals because honestly, I don't think it's pretty seamless. Like it's not distracting.
No, it's not. Like I said, my whole life I thought it was the same person. But it was not.
Honestly, I don't know why Danny Elfman didn't just do the part. I don't know if there was a particular reason. I know I was reading a little bit before I got on that him and Tim Burton actually had gotten a rift. And it's it's the reason why Danny Elfman didn't do the score for Ed Wood, because Ed Wood is the movie Tim Burton makes after this. Even though I keep saying Tim Burton did not direct this movie. Henry Selick directed this movie. He's like a stop motion guy. He did James and the Giant Peach after this. I don't know if you remember that movie, that Disney movie. He did Coraline a couple years ago, and I think he's working on something else right now. But there's a big point of contention even with them, Henry Selick and Tim Burton, because Tim Burton is kind of adamant that it's his movie. That's why it says Tim Burton's and Nightmare Before Christmas, like even on the poster. Right. Well, I think that's actually part of the official title. If you wanted to get technical, it is Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas. And he's like, oh, well, I came up with everything, so it's really my movie. Which I thought was weird. I mean, Tim Burton seems like a weird dude anyways, but not very generous. That's not a very generous move for you, like for a peer. You know what I'm saying? Like Henry Selick, nobody thinks of Henry Selick when they think of Nightmare Before Christmas. They think of Tim Burton.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But I guess in fairness, like the aesthetic design, the characters, they scream Tim Burton. Like it is his aesthetic, it's his wheelhouse. But he didn't direct the movie though. So you got to give props to Henry Selick. He's the one that brought it all together. What do you think about it? Do you like this movie? Like, cause you watched it with your son, right?
Yeah. No, I think it ages well. I do think it ages well. Like you alluded to in the beginning, I think the best part of everything is every single song. The score in general, but like every song is great in the film, and it's just so you can't take your eyes off it, even after 20 plus years of it being made. Like it's just so captivating. And
I think it's something that's cool about that stop motion thing. It really does give it a timeless quality because it feels so separate from anything, like any kind of tangible reality. So it kind of stands in a static place in terms of how we perceive it. It does not feel like a movie from 1993. Could have came out last year for all we, for whatever that's worth. But yeah, the music is the thing that definitely carries you through though, because the story is super basic. Like it's totally basic story, like jaded professional guy just wants to try to shake things up. The people in his company, I guess you could call it, like we're like, change is bad, and he's tasked with kind of, I guess, changing people's minds, but then also it's about kind of your place in the world, appreciating your place in the world, and appreciating like what you do actually contribute, rather than kind of constantly looking for something new, kind of recognizing the power of your circumstances, I suppose. Because as soon as he starts mucking about in Christmas Land, I mean, it's just, things go haywire.
Sour. Things go south.
But because where he's from, Halloween Town is literally full of degenerates. And they see this as an opportunity to be evil and go kidnap Santa Claus. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, it's a town of the degenerates, man, but it's time and place, and it's in that universe where every day is its time and place. So, like, is it really degenerates, or is it just part of that universe?
Oh, I'm being
What do you
I'm being I'm being hyperbolic. I mean, yes, they are. They're just
where that's where we go with it with these conversations, right? So, so do you think like the moral of the story is just basically stay in your lane with the Nightmare Before Christmas? Because what we see like through this whole journey is Jack getting into lanes that's not his own. He goes into Christmas land, tries to do it, and then just everything goes comically south and south fast.
well. He's basically George Bailey. If
By everything, then all is right in the world. All is right in the world in both Christmas land and Halloween land.
well, he's George Bailey. If George Bailey tried to do what he wanted to do,
George Bailey from A Wonderful Life.
yes, because that's at the end of the movie. Isn't that kind of a similar message at the end of the movie? About appreciating the effect that you have on actually the community that you live in, how that actually is kind of like this act of altruism, like it's almost heroic the way they kind of posit it in the movie, that you're the hero of Halloween Town. It does kind of have a cross-cultural message as well, though, because now that they know that one another exists, they can acknowledge each other and kind of they're just aware of different perspectives now, and it maybe softens them up a bit, or it also can inspire Jack how to change things in Halloween Town, but still staying in that sandbox, not breaking the rules of Halloween Town. I guess, right?
I guess, yeah, similar message. Similar message with that. Yeah. I saw a lot of things online where it just went completely bonkers. That is completely like male chauvinistic film, and yeah, people went there, but like a lot of common things that I saw people comment out was like, it's like visually aesthetically pleasing, great score, but at the end of the day, it's telling you not to take any risk and to stay in your lane. I just thought that was interesting because watching it in our youth and then rewatching again with my kids, like I didn't get that. I didn't get that
No, neither did
at
I.
all. So that seems to be a pretty common interpretation, apparently, if you go on the interwebs and
Yeah, well, I mean,
into
people nowadays despise archetypes because it's a simple, basic story. So every character has to be like an archetype because it doesn't go into like deep characterization of any of the characters. The movie's fucking 78 minutes long, 76 minutes long. But 40 minutes of that is music. Like, so they're just archetype, like kind of stand-ins for fairy tales. And
right.
And people just somehow cannot like hold these two thoughts in their head at the same time. It's just like a simple moral. It's not trying to make broad statements about people's roles in life, because I can understand how people might like, because I'm sure that's obviously the Sally character they're kind of getting at, is her kind of she's just a damsel in distress that is obsessed with Jack, and that motivates her every action. And I guess that is true to a certain extent. But like it's in service of this larger message that all of the characters end up taking part in by the end of the movie. So I always find that kind of weird that it's like, so is that okay for a character to be like that? Like, are we just saying we're not allowed to have characters like that anymore? Like this sycophantic fangirl? I mean, that's what she is.
Well, yeah, but she also had like her character also had like intuition and enough grounded reality, even though she was literally created by a mad scientist in Halloween Town, but knew that like this was colliding these worlds was not going to end well, right? And
yes, for sure. No, she's
anything. She was like the main like voice of reason in Halloween Town, especially towards like Jack. Even though she was a fangirl towards Jack, but she was also the voice of reason, trying to ground him back to his reality being Halloween Town.
Yeah,
so,
she's like his conscience in a way. Like she's like kind of the Greek chorus, kind of the foreshadowing things and trying to put out whatever like kind of trying to spell out like what is happening in the story
Right.
as you're watching it. She kind of explains the dilemmas. And then Jack's like, "No, it's going to be great. What are you talking about?" You know? And then obviously hubris gets the better of him at some point. But it's not but it's that's the weird thing about the last act of the movie because when they go and like with the whole stuff with Oogie Boogie, which is a fucking rad song by the way. The Oogie Boogie song fucking rules. We listen to that song all the time at this house. I know most of it. As my son like loves or used to. Not so much anymore. I tried to get him to watch it even earlier tonight. I was like, "Oh, I'll put it on while I'm like we're getting ready for bed or whatever." He's like, "No, I need to watch Dinosaur Train." Okay, but oh yeah, it's like the Halloween. There's elements in Halloween Town that actually undermine what he's doing, like his project. I mean, if Jack were to bring, or does he have them? Okay, am I confusing something? Does he ask them to kidnap Santa Claus?
Yes, he does.
Yes, he does. Okay, never mind. Fuck Jack. What a rotten bastard. I got my
No,
wires
yeah.
crossed.
That's what's going to happen when you try to do a dual feature in one. I think this might be a Zubok first. So these kind of things will happen. These kind of things will happen. I think what I just really like kind of loved about that is just like owning your mistakes, and I think the real message in that is just kind of realizing it. I wouldn't so much say as like a George Bailey thing, because from A Wonderful Life, like you alluded to earlier, because that was more of that was more intimate and personal with like one's own like life and in terms of like success and failures, and
Sure.
This guy really drove out into literally a different universe, a different lane, trying to bring something new. So it wasn't like, how can I make what's more successful, what can I do better in this life? He was already at the top of the universe he was in. He already has the best life that he could possibly have in Halloween Town. And so now he tried to take it into another dimension, into Christmas Town, and like reel that in that way, and then like diving into something to understand. I think they're a little coy with that in the film, where Jack is trying to rationalize Christmas with science, and they do that whole montage on the board. He's doing all these lab experiments on various different like Christmas artifacts and and things like that. It comes up to some scientific conclusion of here's how we can do it, even though in itself like it's a myth and everything. They're just like Halloween Town, so and that's why everything is bonkers. So it's going to be that's going to be your end result, no matter which way you slice it. So I just thought it was pretty loony too, but I do think it was a good message in being conscious and like what you endeavor, and also too kind of like what you alluded to, like with Wonderful Life, same type of things, like appreciate like what you have as well. So
well, it's what you have and what you've done for the people. Like Jack, even though he's bored with it, he gives all of these people meaning. Their lives mean something because of what Jack does once a year. Like their whole lives are so if you take that away from them, you take that place away from them, they go fucking crazy. They don't know how to orientate themselves anymore. And then there's, nefarious figures like Oogie Boogie, the behind the scenes. See, that's what like they I guess Tim Burton has like refused to make a sequel or anything to this. He wants it to be pure. He wants it to be a standalone thing, which I agree with. Like, just leave it alone. Don't make a fucking sequel. Huh?
Where would you go with a sequel with that?
Well, no, that's what he said. He's like, I don't want to sully it by doing like, oh, now he goes to Thanksgiving Town or, all that kind of bullshit. The only thing I was curious with is like, I want to know what is going on with Oogie Boogie. Like, what is his place in this town? Is he like secretly always trying to undermine Jack? Like, is he always like a foil? That's
Right.
like, where does Oogie Boogie fit into this? I mean, he's a great like kind of third act villain.
Right. So we get a glimpse into Christmas Town, but we don't know the full reality of it. We don't know that world as much as we do Halloween Town. Right? And so like what we can kind of infer in Halloween Town, because that's where we spend a majority of the film, is that Oogie Boogie was or is the challenger for the most wanted title of King of Halloween, right?
Yeah.
And it's all Jack, and like it's Jack uncontested, and this is someone that doesn't recognize that and wants to continue to do that, right? And even like Jack's underlings that he eventually goes to send out to kidnap Santa Claus, the most rebellious kids, the trick-or-treaters of Halloween Town, like they're so punk rock in Halloween Town. Like, how do you get more hardcore when you're already a part of Halloween Town? Like, who do you go see? And so that Boogie Woogie Man is like the baddest of the bad, like in Halloween Town.
Yeah.
But so it could be it could be a part of that universe where he tried to contest Jack, or it could just be bad writing because like you said, it's a basic story. And,
well, it doesn't. I don't think it needs
alternate ending. Oogie Boogeyman is the actual mad scientist in an alternate ending. Like,
oh, really?
That's was yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
I give Disney my money, and I have the Disney Plus, and I can look at some extras, and so you can watch the play stills. It's the animated stills of the alternate ending, and the Mad Doctor is the boogeyman. So
okay.
I did, but I guess it was a recent change, abrupt change before they went to the theaters with it, because they just went that route. So I don't know why. I think it could have worked that way. It would have made more sense of like his character, but I don't know. That's what I think. But I do think growing up with it the way it was kind of cool to have that mystery. It is Halloween Town. It does add another spooky element to it. Like you don't know what he is, right? We just talked about, like, was he just there to always contest Jack? The king of Halloween Town isn't set in stone, that there's someone can come take you above. It kind of fits with the theme of spooky Halloween Town, but
for sure.
But just knowing that bit, though, I just think it was, I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny that like Santa Claus gets kidnapped by basically bad children. Like like what he represents, like trying to fight against, I suppose, as what Santa Claus represents the culture, like what his place is, trying to get kids to be good through material gain, and so that was a nice little touch there. I think it's just a solid movie. I mean everybody's seen it, I suppose. It is something I've seen it so many times in the past couple of years. I've never soured on it, but I am a little bit burnt out on it. Like, I've just seen it too many times. I've listened to those songs too many times. But even then, it is always kind of draws me in by how like visually arresting it is. I mean, that's like just the stop motion stuff is incredible. Like really, and the direction is incredible in that sense. And that's why I think Henry Selick really deserves a lot of credit for why this actually works.
Yeah.
Because in the hands of somebody that didn't know what they were doing, it really could fall apart because it's so simple.
Right.
And he just strikes that balance, and it's like very well paced. It doesn't overstay its welcome. 76 minutes long, it gets in, gets out. I think the music, like we said earlier, is a big part of it, because it takes up like a good majority of the movie is actually songs.
Right.
There's like 20 songs, I think, throughout the movie. Like little score pieces, but also actual like 2-3 minute long songs.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite song or a favorite like moment from the movie?
Pretty much the opening, and just going in getting exposed to Halloween Town. I think theatrically, it's just like it's the best. It's the best one, and then as you progress throughout the film, you get more emotionally invested in everything. So the songs hit you a different way. I'm not saying ever lives up to the opening, but I think when you step back and you look at it, I think objectively, the openings is the best, or at least my favorite.
Your favorite,
yeah.
My favorite song is Jack's Lament. It's the one where he's walking through the graveyard and he's kind of like pondering his place in the world. Sally's watching him, spying on him.
Mm-hmm.
That's my favorite song. I mean, because I think it kind of encapsulates, not just I think it's a beautiful piece of music, beautiful vocal performance by Danny Elfman, but I think it speaks to something that we've all have felt, like, like this kind of sense of yearning for something new or different, and it's like it's kind of like almost like haunting in a weird way. It's really sad. It's like it's a sad fucking song. As somebody that feels like lost in the world,
Mm-hmm.
That, and I really love the Oogie Boogie song. I mean, that's like, that song is so fun. The animation on that sequence is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, just whoever, I don't know his name. Let me look it up real quick. The guy who does the voice for Oogie Boogie fucking nails it. And actually, they did a concert a few years ago. Ken Page is his name. They did a live concert a few years ago with Catherine O'Hara, Danny Elfman, and Ken Page actually live on stage did the songs. And that guy fucking can still do it, man. He howls. Yeah. He's done a couple other things. He was King Gator in All Dogs Go to Heaven.
Okay.
The bad guy from All Dogs Go to Heaven. Is he no way. Is he really Sebastian?
No way. Sebastian?
Hold on. He played Sebastian in a thing here. Because he's like a Disney guy. He's done a lot of Disney stuff, a lot of Disney Channel cartoons in the 90s. Adventures in Wonderland. He was on Duckman. Do you remember Duckman? No, okay. So he did Sebastian for like some Disney thing. I was like, wow, that's crazy. That's some range.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I think it's, Nightmare Before Christmas, I think, is one of these kind of more modern classics that kind of deserves its place. There's a reason why it's so popular. And I wish I got to see it when I was like 7.
Yeah. But, I mean, to the dude's credit, the guy not named Tim Burton, but, I mean, he achieved what so many people try to do every year, and it's make a timeless Christmas film.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, Henry Selick deserves a lot of credit for why that movie works. I mean, granted, the music, I think Danny Elfman is probably number 2. Well, I mean, Tim Burton's up there because that's his aesthetic. Is what's so visually arresting, is like that, goth kid Tim Burton stuff, Yeah, I'm trying to think, there's not a lot of like sincerely good modern Christmas movies. Like that's like a new classic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, do you guys watch a lot of Christmas movies at your house during this time of year?
Yeah. I'd probably have to say Elf.
That's the one I would say. It's like actually feels like something that will stand the test of time, right?
Yeah, except like 2003, and it's still, it doesn't feel like it was out in 2003. It's pretty. I don't know. That's so far 17 years. I think it's held up pretty well.
Yeah, no, I think it has too. Usually I would say the one that's more recent that I think is actually not bad, not a perfect movie, but a pretty fun Christmas movie. It's got a good, nice message to it. Is the first Christmas Chronicles from a couple years ago, the one with Kurt Russell, Santa Claus. It's on Netflix.
It just came out.
I watched the new one. Yeah. I thought the new one was it's like more overtly a children's film, like where the first one feels more like a family movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second one's more like kind of wacky and like CGI creatures and more like magic, and they're at the North Pole, and felt much more like tailored towards children. Whereas the first one I thought had like a good balance of kind of fantastical stuff and then kind of more of an emotional, grounded Christmas message that I thought it worked really well. Yeah, the second one, Chronicles. The Christmas Chronicles 2 is like a lot like, you ever watch the Tim Allen Santa Claus movies?
Yeah.
Okay, so the first one is like, it's got obviously the fantastical element to it, but it's a pretty grounded movie.
Mm-hmm.
About a guy that's like, divorcing his wife and all this stuff with the kid, and like there's all this kind of relatable, tangible, emotional drama. And then in the second one, it's just like a cartoon. Like it just the tone completely changes, and then by the third one, he's fighting what's his name, Martin Short as Jack Frost with like a fucking like an ice ray, and that's where it feels like Christmas Chronicles is kind of going in that direction. But the first one, I would stand by and say it's actually worth watching around Christmas time for sure. You got to put it on the.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah, I think so. We don't know timeless yet, right? Because like, who does? You gotta wait. You gotta wait at least a decade. Like, oh, okay, that one was good. But I wanted to see the second ones because it's got that pudgy New Zealand kid in it that I like a lot. He's in that movie with Neil.
Sam Neill. Sam Neill.
Sam. Yeah, that was a great one. Right in the feels, and it was funny.
Yeah, Hunt for the Wilder People. He was also in Deadpool 2.
Mm-hmm.
He's a kid in Deadpool 2. Which, speaking of inappropriate rated R movies, it's time to talk about Fatman.
Oh.
So I asked Paul to watch this. I thought, I don't know if Paul was going to love it or anything, but I was like, I bet this is something he would enjoy watching on some sort of level. Fatman is the recent released movie from just a few weeks ago, directed by Esham and Ian Nelms, a brother team. They're like indie filmmaker guys. It stars Mel Gibson, Walton Goggins, Marion Jean-Baptiste, Chance Huskerfield, and others. The plot synopsis is a rowdy, unorthodox Santa Claus is fighting to save his declining business. Meanwhile, Billy, a neglected and precocious 12-year-old, hires a hitman to kill Santa after receiving a lump of coal in his stocking. So, Paul, now, what did you think of Fatman?
Okay.
What was your general feeling after you watched it?
All right. The general feeling after I watched it was it was great. I thought it was hilarious. I thought overall it was a funny movie. I didn't feel like I wasted my time. It was good. You'd see Mel Gibson be Mel Gibson. And, and that's the thing about this guy, right? Off screen, everyone knows like his whole is decline and all the struggles he went through and blah blah blah. But even if he gets in something like Bring Me the Gringo or Drag Across Concrete or something, or even what I just watched something that came out last year, yesterday too, about making the Oxford Dictionary. It's like
yeah.
Right, and that now is very by the numbers bio epic, but it was still fun. You get to see Mel Gibson do a Scottish accent again, although it's still William Wallace, but you get little subtleties in there. It's nice, but anyways, that said, obviously I'm a Mel Gibson fanboy. Grew up watching all this shit, especially Road Warrior. Those are all like Lethal Weapons. I'm like, oh my god, how many times have we watched Lethal Weapon, Sean?
A lot.
So just So it was just kind of funny for a guy like me, who's seen Mel Gibson as Santa Claus. That kind of makes sense because it's like your childhood movie star hero, in a lot of ways going there. So
yeah,
I love the whole universe that this film takes place at. It's cold, modern, you're led to believe it's modern times now. The existence of Santa Claus is known. It's a fact. Everyone knows that, and he actually does go out and deliver elf-made toys throughout the world. To exclusively to the nice list. And he does give coal to the naughty list.
Yeah.
Out there, and I just love the cold, gritty, dark aspect of it, right? Where he's constantly conflicted with the commercialism and the business aspect of Christmas, his livelihood, right? And they don't explain shit to how do they get to this part, right? Where operations in Alaska and blah blah blah. There's so much so you go through this, you enjoy the film, you enjoy the dark. Right off the bat, you're punched in the face with this evil little rich kid, neglected kid, right? That's does it. I mean, he's got his own little sad story himself, right? With his no one knows the situation with his mom. His dad is off gallivanting all around the world with like whatever girlfriend he has at the time. He's got a pretty like recluse grandmother that he himself takes advantage of by spending her money, and that's how he's able to afford hiring our guy Walter Goggins, who is awesome in anything that guy is in.
Yeah, Walton
Anything
Goggins is
he's
great.
in. Whether it's an FX show like the Shield, which I was first introduced to him.
Well, but you took it. I mean, listen here. He's saying this now, but back in the day when we were watching The Shield, Paul took a while to. He hated Shane. He hated him.
What I did.
Until the last season, we're like,
person with a moral compass would have hated him as well. You're talking part in the season of The Shield that I'm talking about. Yeah.
until the last season where Walton Goggins' performance is so good in the last season of The Shield that he really turns it around. Like he turns your feelings about that character totally around. But yeah, Walton Goggins. I mean, the cast is great. Like that's kind of what makes the movie. I don't think if you didn't have as strong of actors in the movie, I don't know if it works. Like it's threading such a fine needle, like through the tones. And I would even say sometimes it's not always successful. I mean, I liked Fatman a lot, and I've watched it twice, and I liked it even more the second time I watched it. I do have some issues with it. I don't think it's by any means a perfect movie. There's some structure things and some story elements, mostly with Walton Goggins and that little kid, that I was like, we could change this and we could actually make a tighter movie. But Mel Gibson is so fucking good that anytime the movie leaves Mel Gibson, however good Walton Goggins is, you're just like, let's go back to Santa Claus. Let's go see. I love the premise of it, where it's like Santa Claus is a government employee, and he makes his money based on like the government subsidizes like how many presents he actually gives to kids, and he's a man of ethics. He even so he will not just give presents to bad kids. He's like, no, they get coal. What did he say? He says, he's like, this is not a fucking charity. This is Christmas. And then what happens is they're not making enough money because there's kind of this outbreak of bad kids. And it's kind of implied. You hear some stuff on the radio, like some kid setting his parents on fire or something like that. Just the kind of general tone, that's what that, the 12-year-old, neglected 12-year-old kid's kind of also part of that, this kind of changing world that Santa Claus has to deal with, which comes into play towards the end of the movie, where he's like, we need to redirect. But that to me was the most interesting. That's the best stuff in the movie. All that stuff with like Santa Claus and the military and all the best comedic moments to me were in there, because they're the subtlest stuff. It's the subtle stuff that I found the funniest. Like the scene where Santa Claus has to go out on the catwalk and tell his elves that they have to make fucking bombs. They have to make the triggers for missiles. That shit was fucking hilarious, and Mel Gibson nails it, because Mel Gibson is actually a very funny dude. Like, he understands kind of dark comedy, and he likes that stuff. I was listening to an interview with the directors, and that's the scene that made Mel Gibson want to make the movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because he's just like, that's hilarious. Like, that's really funny. He's like, you go out there, you're all grave, and you're like about to cry, and this is the hardest thing you've ever had to do. And he's like, and that's what makes it funny. And so he knew what he was doing, and then he was just like, and then I guess like the way Mel Gibson described his performance was to say like he was like an old cowboy, kind of this washed up cowboy type figure.
That's funny, because there totally is like a Western vibe to it. Like
there is.
This hitman character like comes out there to confront Mel Gibson, Kris Kringle. So for sure. But I'd love that's such like it was so funny because it's so true. Like Santa Claus's construct with the government, where the contract is based on his deliverables, his profits are based on presents delivered, not like either like that. So when there's an influx of naughty list participants, then that's going to kill your bottom line. So like this this contractual thing is like what's killing you, and so you're in that like ethical dilemma, like, well, we could just start giving, are they that naughty? You know, blah blah. But he's sticking to like his principles and then getting caught up. Because like you said, like the best parts of the film, or at least with his performance, are all the subtleties where, you know, he's venting to, you know, Mrs. Claus, you know, John Baptiste, just going on about, you know, like because of our efforts, you know, we contribute to a multi-billion-dollar industry on this. What, like, you know, what I do, you know, people can sell their soda, sell their cars, and blah blah blah, and like we can't even keep the power on, you know, like we can't even keep anything going, and like that, just like this whole life, like just like where we're at, we're trying to do this, like I'm trying to keep my moral compass, I'm trying to do this, but realizing I'm losing my influence, and then we can't keep the power on. Like, what are we even doing? Is it time to, like, you know, retire the show and everything?
Which is the dilemma that makes it a legitimate Christmas movie, because it is like actually against like the commercialization of Christmas and not being in the proper spirit. Like, that's what the actual message of the movie is, even towards the end of the movie, even if he's going to take matters into his own hands in more of like a kind of a funny action man way. But that's more, to me, he's going to be more proactive. Yeah. But like, I think that's what actually makes it a real Christmas movie. I think you can have a weird Christmas movies about whatever, like, but as long as like kind of the subtext or the message of the movie is something about like maintaining the spirit of Christmas and what it's actually all about, then I think you're good. That's why Die Hard is not a Christmas movie, everybody. I'm sorry. It takes place on Christmas. It's not a Christmas movie because it has nothing to do with the season of Christmas. Sorry. It just doesn't. Sorry to have to tell you this, okay? Sorry to have to do this to you.
Yeah,
but
maybe next year we can have a big debate about why you're wrong. But let's
why I'm wrong.
Keep it on the Fatman though, man. Yeah, I know Mel Gibson definitely like stole the show. He is the act in this film, no question about it. But it stopped me from loving Walter Goggins, man.
Oh, Walton Goggins is still good. No, don't get me wrong. I don't mean to say that he wasn't good, because he is. And in fact, I wish he had. I wish that the movie gave him more of a chance to be a richer character. And we're going to get into total spoiler territory for this movie, so if people haven't seen it yet, it's worth your $6 if you're going to rent it. Worth your $10 if you want to buy it, in my opinion. I'm waiting for the Blu-ray to come out, then I'm going to buy it because that's got to go on the shelf. It's got to go on the shelf.
Posterity.
Yeah. But so if you don't want to know any of the finer details of the film, this is where we're going to talk about that stuff. Just because it was recently released. We normally on Zoobox, because we talk about older movies, so it's kind of a given that we're going to just talk about whatever. But here's your chance to go. But yeah, okay. So Walton Goggins' character. My biggest gripe with the movie is that 12-year-old kid, and I feel like you could have done the same exact thing with Walton Goggins' character, even though I know that the way they constructed the movie, that kid is necessary for the end of the movie. But I wish that that it was more focused on just Walton Goggins and Mel Gibson's Santa Claus, because I think they have potential to be mirror emotional journeys, where it's like Santa Claus coming into realizing like his place in society and where he's fallen short and et cetera, and then you have a kid that he actually disappointed. And we know that he's obsessed with Christmas, but they really hold the hand really close to the chest for most of the movie. Like, it's treated as a big reveal at the end of the movie, and I was like, honestly, I honestly probably would have liked it more if I kind of knew his motivation at first, and this was just his, like, he's been looking for Santa Claus, and he finds Santa Claus. He finds out where he is, and he goes to fucking kill him. Rather than it being kind of almost like, I guess, I don't know. I mean, I'm not being completely fair, to be honest. Like, to be fair to the movie. The movie is what it is. I think it works fine the way it is. But I do think it would have been just a stronger through line if those characters were actually had like a parallel emotional journey, and then they kind of come together at the end for their final showdown, and about like a disappointed kid that went bad because he didn't feel that Santa Claus noticed him or whatever, and then Santa Claus having to come to terms with the fact that like I can't actually be there for everybody at all times. I have limitations, et cetera, et cetera. And that, and that is part of the movie. I mean, that is part of the movie where it's like,
the conclusion is to be more proactive, right?
yeah,
And so he saw like firsthand, like with the first disappointed kid who got into a profession of being Walter Goggins' character is a professional hitman
yeah,
who is hired by the younger character. Oh God, what the hell was his name? It doesn't matter, but
Billy.
he had means to hire him to go kill like Santa Claus, and so
Yeah, but he doesn't.
kid at the end, inevitably it becomes too late for Walter Goggins' character for
Yeah,
Chris Kringle to do
yeah,
anything about it. He's got no choice. He's got to kill him. It was like in self-defense. Well, he doesn't kill him. Mrs. Claus ends up killing him. Which by that same like when he Walter Goggins pops him in the head, I was just like, oh shit, that's where we're going. I was like, damn. but,
oh,
but then he comes back. But then that's where and he acknowledges it too when he confronts the guy that Walter Goggins' character like dearly puts his phone as like little shit.
yeah, yeah.
Like in there, this is partly my fault. That's why I'm going to take a more proactive approach.
No,
And, like,
exactly, and that's what that kid serves that function. Like he serves that. He is basically needs to be there because of the end of the movie. Because you had to have a kid character that you knew about that was a bad kid, for Santa to go be like, I'm not going to let this happen again,
right.
and I'm going to do it myself, which is a great little scene too. Actually, I love that scene when he comes in with the fucking eye patch that he like moves, or no, with the gauze, and then she takes it off his head and he like looks at him. He's like, "Listen here, son."
He's like, look at me. Look at me.
Oh, but like the showdown between Walton Goggins and Mel Gibson though is awesome. I love the showdown, and the fact that Santa Claus, Chris Kringle, is still trying to kind of reason with him, even because right before Walton Goggins caps his ass, he's trying to say something.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to say like, "Stop."
It's done, son. Done. I'm like,
yeah, doesn't have to be like this.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but hey, at least we got a great Mel Gibson death scene because he does those pretty good. I like that.
He sure does. He sure does. Mel Gibson is great. He's great. Yeah, but even with the kid too, I think they really went over the top with how bad it is. Just like you're introduced to him with Napoleon prominently, a portrait of Napoleon in the scene. And so I'm like, it's like, all right, yeah, like we get it. He's a little shit. And they had to do it like several times throughout. Like he's on the film a lot, but like the few times he is, they got to make us think of it. And then, hey, yeah, and there were. It's just, granted, it's a dark comedy, but it just there's just a lot of like continuity things. I feel like throughout the film that just like the need for the government contract and how that came to be, and what were they doing prior to that, and
Yeah.
So you just had to it's just one of those films where you just what I mean, you had to be like in the moment and just care about the narrative that's right in your face and not think anywhere. And as long as you go through that, and I think that's why initially I liked it, but it's like the more you think about it, the more like
I mean, it's a low. I think there definitely probably budget constraints about the scope of the movie and like really being able to get into anything.
Mm-hmm.
I think they shot it pretty quickly, and then the directors they've only done a couple movies. I've seen their last movie just like by happenstance. I think I just watched it on Netflix like one night. It's called Small Town Crime. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. It's just like it's another one of these like really little indie movies. It's got a good cast, but it's a little wide of the mark. It's a little muddled. And I think Fatman is like it's got like it needs like a script polish. It needs some tightening, and then it needs like $10 million more, and then it's like an all-timer.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's so close. And I think like the moment-to-moment experience, like you said, like watching it, you're like it's really engaging, and it works. It works. I think overall it works. But you have to kind of let a lot of stuff go, I think, to really, really embrace it. Like I said in the beginning, I think like Mel Gibson, Walton Goggins, and actually Marianne Jean-Baptiste, she was great. They actually really hold the movie together. More so than anything else. I mean, the concept itself is inherently interesting and inherently kind of makes you chuckle a little bit. And I think that does a lot of the heavy lifting. It's like just the way the structure of the movie I felt was off. Like the Walton Goggins and the 12-year-old kid stuff, Billy stuff, like feels too separate for too long. Like they don't feel like they're parallel to each other. And like in this, like I couldn't like and there was like kind of a tonal difference between the two paths for the A plot and the B plot. Whereas I thought most of the stuff, like actually all the stuff with Santa Claus, like if you like works really well. Like there's not a scene or a moment that I thought like hit a false beat or didn't work for me. The Walton Goggins stuff, like sometimes I was just it felt and because you don't know anything about his character until the very end, it just you're kind of just like, I don't understand his motivation enough to like really be able to invest in this in any way. And I think having, like I said before, like having the reveal be that he was an abused kid that Santa Claus missed when he was younger gives him this kind of animus towards Santa Claus. Like, well, why did you need this? You're a hitman of great means, obviously. You needed this kid to hire you to go fucking find Santa Claus? You're literally collecting Santa Claus toys from fucking random people, and you have a little back room where you catalog and put them in bags, and like this is obviously a preoccupation of yours. So I was like, if it was me, say if I made Fatman to do a little fantasy bullshit, which is not a good thing for critics to do. It's not fair, but I'm going to do it anyways. I would have started with like a flashback with Walton Goggins as a kid. That's what I would have done. And maybe, you know what you do to have the little rotten kid?
Strikes of him as a kid, then you wouldn't need the like little Napoleon tyrant to begin with, right?
You can do away with all of that. Walton Goggins has an estranged son that he's struggling to connect with. He's struggling to connect because of his own childhood. Yeah. And he's obsessed with killing Santa Claus or whatever. And that's who Santa Claus can go save at the end of the movie, or go be more direct with, or whatever. Because you could make the argument, you could show that the kid is kind of like on a negative path.
Yeah, well, there's one way of it too, right? So like Walter Goggins' character, like he didn't grow up with the resources or the privilege of little Napoleon kid, right? And so little Napoleon kid, he gets whatever he wants right away. And he can go make those calls. And so we are to believe at the end of the film that Walter Goggins' character, had a, because what was his letters every year to Santa Claus was to replace his parents, right? And so there's, it's pretty jam-packed. There's a lot of different ways you can like look into that, like what was that whole situation like, right? But the bottom line is it wasn't good, right? So he didn't go through that. But so when you grow up in America where you have like no means, you don't have a lot, like you appreciate like little things that you have or that you didn't have. And so maybe that's where he took out that aggression or that thought, like, oh, let me go buy, let me collect all these toys from the legit Santa's workshop for my own, collection to make up for my whole livelihood of like not getting anything.
For sure.
Thought of actually going out and doing that on his own to actually kill Santa didn't come across until through his profession, where his profession lined up with the little ship. Hey, I want you to kill him because he gave me coal, and just the whole like.
Sure.
Think of that. Why didn't I think of that? And then let's move on forward.
I think that's a fair reading of what happens in the movie.
Yeah,
but it just
like that. Like I think that's kind of weak. Try to make him like a little. I like the vanity aspects of him. Like someone where he's in the stories like. Tan makes me look too fat. Green is fucking stupid.
Oh, dude, that was great. That was actually one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah, and then go get the hamster. Like let's give him a hamster. He's into having a pet hamster. Yeah, that'll make him eccentric. That'll make him quirky. Let's give him add on that.
Oh, the director.
I did like the part where he's at the pet store.
Yeah.
He's like, my mother. He's like, what?
Didn't know when to shut the fuck up. Yeah.
Never listen and don't know when to shut the fuck up.
Actually, I was part of that. I listened to one podcast with the directors, and they were saying about the hamster thing. They're like, yeah, we envisioned the character like a snake, and that's like his always prey. He always has something to play with, that he could snuff out at a moment's notice. I was like, okay, well now you've told me that, like I can understand that, but I didn't pick that up when I watched the movie at all.
Because he was like coddling the fucking hamster, and then he went out of his way to get him like a more comfortable like little dash wheel, and referred to him as buddy a couple times too. So I didn't get like, oh, that's gonna be my pride can eat at 8 times. You would think that if anyone touched that hamster, he would lose his shit.
So I mean,
I think who wrote it said on the podcast was a liar. I think he was lying about his own.
Goddamn liar. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to cover up your fucking indie movie eccentric quirky guy bullshit.
Yeah. No, it's not a guy who enjoys High West Prairie bourbon.
He's probably never even heard of it, Paul.
Never has. Probably never has. Fucking snob.
Sucker, dude.
Yeah.
Fucking sucker.
Yeah. But I can't say it enough. Mel Gibson was just like, it's like gritty, from like a Payback, right? But then aged more, and then just in this like dark universe where like Santa is real, and it's just you talked earlier about how there's like a bad influx globally about bad kids and stuff, and it's not like right in your face, but you kind of get that when he does his first like sleigh ride, and he's like, oh, I get someone like shot me, like it's tough. It's like getting off like night shift from being a police officer in a bad neighborhood, right? Like he's just coming back. He's coming back like literally gunshots and damaged sleigh and everything. And he's got to go and fix that. So I mean, it was they really made it gritty, and they really made it interesting. So,
and it's also got it ends on kind of a humorous note, but before that, one of the things I liked most about the movie is Mel Gibson and Marianne Jean-Baptiste. I thought they had really good chemistry, and the scene where he's out in the barn, fucking hitting the punching bag, and she drops off like the dossier or whatever of all the kids that he's given presents to that grew up, and then he just like gives this little glance to the house, like this knowing glance, like she gave him just what he needed, and you get that classic Mel Gibson trying not to cry performance. Yeah. I know all the tricks. Like I'm like Paul has intimated earlier. Like I'm a huge Mel Gibson fan. Like I can and he unfortunately had like a lot of public turmoil, just bad things in his life that happened in public, and also involving alcohol. And you're definitely not your best self when you're hammered and angry. So, and a lot of people forget. I'll white knight him a little bit here. A lot of people forget the big egregious thing that he did when he yelled at his supermodel ex-wife or whatever. When he said, "I hope you get raped by a pack of roving N-words." She was trying to extort him. She was trying to get money out of him. And then she made those recordings specifically to sell them to the Esquire. Or the Inquirer, rather.
Right.
So, come on. And we gotta be a little fair here. I'm not saying I endorse this behavior, but like I don't know if that makes you a forever pariah. Are you kidding me? Fucking Hollywood full of fucking the most monstrous human beings on the goddamn planet.
Yeah, no.
Mel Gibson's a bridge too far because he's a fucking drunk that yelled at his wife? Give me a break. Come on.
Yeah, just different times, man. Different times.
So, it ain't right.
No. It was right in there to hashtag campaigns. So I mean, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? They made a hashtag. I'm sorry. Business is closed, boys. Go try again. I hear the south of France is a great time to find oneself. Great place.
Yeah. I hear, yeah, exactly. We give Roman Polanski, a child rapist, an Academy Award in the early 2000s, but Mel Gibson, that's a bridge too far. Sure. Okay.
I just saying. Definitely no hashtag fan where Polanski's time frame. Come on. Let me tell you. It's those hashtags, and that's when it's a problem. because it was a pound sign for a long time before it was a hashtag. You know? Now I'm the weirdo. Okay. Oh, you know, I guess at the end of the day, there's Mr. Kringle in all of us in Fat Man. You know, where you just kind of lose sight, lose perspective. You know? You get caught into the grind. Because at the end of the day, it's showing you right that Chris Kringle is kind of like an everyday man. Though he has like
Yes.
special ability. He's Santa Claus, but he's got like super strength, a great intimate memory. He lives a long time. They made references earlier in the film, like, oh yeah, remember the Christmas back in 1910, and like
Yeah.
he's been around for a while. This is legit Santa Claus, but he is, it's like showing up to a bar, like a working man's bar. He's driving, a red Chevy, beat up red Chevy.
Yeah.
Power. He's an everyday man. He's an everyday working man, and just like illustrated in this part, it was just really cool to kind of see that, and even though that Santa Claus, you're still going to struggle with these things that an everyday working man is going to struggle with, putting food on the table, keeping people employed,
well exactly, because if you think about, like, if you were to take like the grounded perspective on Santa Claus, this is what it would be. The utility of it would be this: like, a guy has to get all these toys made throughout the year. He has to be checking on people to make sure their behavior is okay, and then he has to literally fucking deliver them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a job. It would be a job. It would be work.
Yeah, and because of that, persona, that perception, and like who you are, like you don't get any breaks, right? And so when you are human, because that's what they're doing in the film, is portraying Chris Kringle, as a human, even though he's slightly, subhuman,
Little superhuman, yeah.
Just like superhuman, yeah. Like he's he acknowledged that he made some mistakes with a few, right? Oh, he's made mistakes with a lot. There's a lot of kids going off the nihilist. That's one of the things he's struggling with, is like losing his influence, right? And like, especially it's hit right in the face, confronted him right in the face with Walter Goggins' character. But then that's his rude awakening, where he's like, okay, we're gonna make a more proactive approach. But just like, even like when you're at that status, like, you can't make those mistakes. You're going with the grind, and like, what are we doing? Like, what are we working for? So I mean,
exactly. Well, that's what reminds him of like what he represents to the world and the influence that he can actually have on people's lives. That's what he's reminded of. And so that's, again, another example of like why it is actually a Christmas movie.
Yep. And I would say too, another example where there'd be very few actors, I feel, that could pull it off other than Mel Gibson.
The only other actor who I would say would be Kurt Russell, and he's playing Santa Claus in a different series. But the only other actor that I could see you could slot into that, don't get me wrong.
Russell, I'm sorry, we're quick, but while on the Kurt Russell business, like, I don't think he could pull that grittiness like Mel could. I don't think so.
Get out of your fucking mind, buddy. What are you talking about?
It's been a long time since John Carpenter. All right? So
no. You gotta see some older Kurt Russell stuff.
No, man, I don't think I don't think it would have been good with him as it would with Mel. Granted, we saw it with Mel Gibson.
No,
right?
I think the tone would have been slightly lighter. It would have just been a little different for sure.
It would have been more corny. It would have been more corny.
I think he could do it. Listen, don't get me wrong. I'm happy Mel Gibson did it. I'd rather Mel Gibson have done it, because it gives Mel Gibson something to do. Like, the coolest thing about, well, not the coolest thing, but Mel Gibson clearly wants to be an actor. Like, so even he takes something like Fat Man and he goes for it. He gives you like a great Mel Gibson performance.
Yeah.
And it reminds you that he's a movie star in a way that like very few people are. Because you learn all of his little tics and his eccentricities and little idiosyncratic stuff, and like, and you want them. I get excited when I see Mel Gibson do like a Mel Gibson thing.
Yeah.
It's awesome. One more thing I wanted to bring up, though, what I loved about the part of like kind of the world building of the concept is the fact that when Walton Goggins says, "I've come to kill you, Fat Man," and he's like, "You think you're the first?" I love the idea that like people have come looking for fucking Santa Claus before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like this is his life. Like that's we were talking about when we first started talking about it. It's like the Western aspect. That's what
Yeah.
makes it kind of feel like a rancher, or no, like a western. And he's like a rancher.
Yeah.
You know.
Out in a secluded place, takes all different types of security precautions, and
Yeah.
and then keeps it, keeps the gun ready. As soon as they got the notification, right?
Yeah.
Mrs. Clutch, what to do? She started locking and loaded with them. Here you go.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they definitely a team. Like you said, like good chemistry with them though. But like it was definitely.
Oh, I loved her. I thought she was such a great compliment to his performance, like her warm maternal stuff, but was also very like real.
Yeah,
Like
and I
real with.
love how it makes sense, right? I love how that makes sense because you had like a woman of color with a British accent as Mrs. Claus. It doesn't matter, right? It's
No.
all like, but it just breaks away from it's just another element to break away that this isn't your typical Santa Claus movie, right?
Mhm.
So but it worked out great. It worked out great.
Did you think that he was dead?
Yeah,
Did you think he was?
totally,
You thought he
totally.
was dead for real? Yeah.
Totally, that happened. I was just like, "Oh shit, that's wow, that's where they're going with this." Okay, and then he goes in and I knew Walter Goggins. Like I had a feeling he was going to get capped, but when Fat Man came back, I'm like, all right, now what? And then and so I watched. I was like, okay, and it's like a little hokey, but like what Christmas movie is it?
Well, but they do foreshadow it because they show when he gets shot when he comes home after on Christmas Day and he's been shot. They show you that his wound is healed, like it's
Mhm.
healing faster. So they do kind of establish that he has like these super healing powers or whatever. Actually, when I was watching it, and the second time I watched it with my wife, and she was like, "Oh, is Walton Goggins going to become Santa Claus now? Like, is that what's happening here? Like, you go and you kill Santa Claus and you take over the mantle of Santa Claus?" I was
Yeah,
like, "Well, I guess that could have been a thing. Sure." That's literally the plot of the Santa Claus with Tim Allen.
yeah,
You have to fucking die, and then you curse whatever sad sack killed you.
yeah,
Fucked up, dude.
yeah. That could have been around. That could have been an avenue, but I'm glad it didn't. You said there was another person besides Kurt Russell that you think could have done that role of Santa Claus.
Oh no! I no. The only person I could think of
Oh,
contemporarily would. Although, hold on. What about like Nick Nolte? What about Nick Nolte from the early 2000s?
uh, no, not likable enough.
No, it would be a different movie. I think
Yeah,
you put somebody else in that role, the tone would have to shift with the sensibilities of the actor. Like, Mel Gibson's coming in doing kind of the old beat up cowboy performance, and it is performancy. Like, it's not like you ever think for a second like, oh, he really got lost in that character or whatever. No, it's not. That's not what it is. It's just fun to watch Mel Gibson do that. It's kind of like that's what makes him a movie star. You don't care. You're just like, it's just fun to watch somebody that you enjoy watching do something like that.
yeah, and just completely own it. But I did love how there wasn't any sleigh stuff. They didn't show any of the whole Christmas aspect of him delivering shit, right? That was all implied, right? Right before he went out to
Yeah.
Christmas, it was like he was about to. It was like a trucker, like he was about to go. He got his whole thermostat. He's about to go out
Yeah.
and hit some radio. Sleigh's ready, Santa. All right, be right out. Over. Just go out and then he comes back. Shot. Right. You don't get any of that. And even with the elves, the workshop, it's out at a big barn, everything like that. So there's nothing it was just all a gritty and real, even though it's about something that's just complete fantasy, and I did really appreciate that.
Yeah. Apparently they're already this did very well um for video on demand stuff. It was like the number one movie for like 3 weeks or whatever. And
Oh,
they're talking about doing another one. They're just
mhm.
trying to make sure that everybody that was they called integral to the first one can come back. Which I assume that's you got to be talking about Mel Gibson, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But unfortunately, he's just at a point in his career like this is That's what
Yeah.
really, he's not getting. People are not beating down his door to be in their movies anymore. So, um, which is unfortunate. It really bums me out. I want to see him direct one more fucking awesome movie. Although apparently he's supposed to be doing a sequel to The Passion of the Christ, like the Easter. And Jim Caviezel's coming back.
Really?
Caviezel getting the team back together. Yeah, which seems to me, I'm like, don't do that.
No.
We don't need to do that.
Calypso or something. I don't know. Do something else. Actually, do a Western.
Actually, he do a killer Western. He was supposed to. Now, I doubt it's going to happen anymore, but for years and years and years, he was supposed to do a movie about Vikings.
Oh,
and do it kind of like he did Apocalypto, where they'd speak in the Norse language and stuff. And he did have a cast, like Leonardo DiCaprio, I think, was supposed to be the lead. This was like 10 years ago. Never happened, obviously. But I don't know. I guess that's what he's doing now.
Yeah. Wicked.
Yeah. Director. What is it? Oh, okay. Right now, he is slated to direct a Western.
What?
For 2022, the remake of The Wild Bunch.
My Like a Prophet.
Yeah, it's the people that are rumored to be cast right now are Michael Fassbender, Peter Dinklage, and Jamie Foxx.
Interesting.
Okay, sure, I could do that. I could do that.
Like the cast right there.
Yeah. I mean,
Magneto, Tyrion, and Django Unchained. Okay.
Yeah. I could see that. I could see it happening. I could see it. Sure. It would be probably a fun movie. Well, The Wild Bunch itself, if you've ever seen the original Wild Bunch, great movie. It's a very fun movie. Very fun. It's got a serious aspects to it, and it's a lot of interesting subtext about like the death of the West, but it's a fun movie. It's like just a collection of great character actors. Like the man's man character actors of the era, obviously having like a wild fucking time making that movie. And it comes across on screen. The kind of guys that would go shoot all day and then drink all night and then wake up and do it all over again,
Yeah. The life, man.
All right. So do you think this will end up in some sort of rotation in your life around the Christmas season? Will you revisit Fat Man?
Yeah. This is definitely something I'd like. I have a brother showing up. Tomorrow. It might be something I queue up. At night after I put the kids down. You gotta check this out. I'm definitely going to recommend it. The family and friends to check it out. So I mean, it's definitely coming on the rotation.
Oh definitely. It's got to go.
This was a huge. I mean, you can be nitpicky all day. I think a couple movies, a couple weeks ago, we were talking about like with Christmas movies, you give a lot of things a pass. Same applies to this, man. I think I'm just going to like it. I think I'm just going to like it as more time goes on and more times I see it. So, definitely appreciate the bringing my awareness to it. Kind of out of the loop with that stuff, and seeing that, I was like, Mel Gibson movie, what? Santa, what? There's guns, what? So no, it's definitely on the rotation for me.
Yeah, I feel the same because I would say like without really much reservation, I think like most people you could watch this and really enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's well made enough for that, and I'll definitely be in my Christmas rotation. It'll definitely go on the list. I mean, I watch Jingle All the Way every year, so that's like I don't have very high standards for Christmas movies.
Right.
I just don't. When was the last time you watched Jingle All the Way, buddy?
I don't know. I don't know.
Shit. Paul.
That's the Arnold one, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And maybe I cue that one up.
Disney actually owns that movie now, and for some reason, it's not on Disney Plus. They're trying to hide it, Paul. They're trying to hide Jingle All the Way.
Well, that's not cool.
It's like kind of an evil Christmas movie. It's a little It does not. It has its heart in the right place, but it completely fucking has mixed messages about about what is going on in that movie. I mean, Phil Hartman basically tries to date rape somebody. It's crazy.
Yeah. So we're talking like a Miracle on 34th Street type of deal.
Well, yeah. Well, at least they're adults and Jingle All the Way.
It doesn't make it any less shitty.
Well, you got to think about it. The son withholds his love from his father until he literally becomes the material object of his desire. Arnold Schwarzenegger literally has to become Turbo Man for his son to love him. It's a very weird movie. When you start like dissecting it and like pulling, you're like, what the fuck? But anyways, that's the story for a different time. Maybe next year, everybody. If you'd actually like to hear, if you want to hear my thoughts about Jingle All the Way, I did it during this. We're doing every day for up until Christmas, a Christmas movie, 12 Days of Christmas movies over on Zoobox. I did it, I think, like the second or third day I did Jingle All the Way. So you go check those out there. I still had long hair. It's like a different era, different time. But anyways, thank you so much for joining me, Paul. I really appreciate it, and I'm glad that you enjoyed Fatman because I thought you'd like it. So
I did, man. Thanks for having me.
all right, everybody. If you would like to know more about Zoobox, there's a bunch of links in the description for Facebook, for Instagram, for Twitter, my Twitter, Dan's Twitter, our email, zooboxpodcast@gmail.com. You want to drop us a note? Want to drop us a note this Christmas week? If you get it in early enough, maybe it gets read on our Christmas episode. That will hopefully happen. No promises. I can't. There's other people involved. And also, if you'd like to make a request for one of these videos, you like me and Big Paul talking here. There's a movie you want us to talk about. We take requests, so you can leave it in the comments. We're looking for a weird one. So if you have like a really weird, dark, fucked up movie that's not called the Serbian film, I'm not going to make Paul watch the Serbian film. So other than that. Please leave it in the comments. Also, let us know if you've watched Fatman. Will this be in your Christmas rotation? Will this become, will it become kind of like Scrooge, right? Nobody liked Scrooge when it came out. A lot of people don't know that. It was actually not very reviewed very well. People thought it was way too mean-spirited, but I really like Scrooge. So maybe it'll become like and I'll put it in that pantheon. I'll watch Jingle All the Way, Fatman, and Scrooge in the same day every year. It's going to be great. It's going to be great, everybody. All right. Good night. Bye. Merry Christmas.
Skin to cry. You float like a feather in a beautiful world. I wish I was special.